So I want to give a big welcome to everybody. You are attending right now for us the grades 3 through 5, quarter 3, QCT 3 for elementary for mathematics. As we go ahead, we do have 2 members in our elementary department, Tasha Frazier, which she's not here with us this evening. She did one last night. And then I am Valerie Bacci. I also have 2 coworkers who have volunteered to help me from middle school. If they'd like to take a moment and come off of mute and introduce themselves, that'd be wonderful.
Hello, everyone. Edgardo Carrion, secondary coordinator.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jackie Malone, middle school coordinator. And if you have any 6th grade needs, feel free to reach out because I know we do have some on elementary campuses. Thanks for joining us.
Wonderful. Thank you. As we move forward tonight in our PD, I did have the pre-work screen up for us. We do need a piece of paper and some scissors. And if you could cut that into 6 paper strips that are equal lengths, that'd be fantastic. If not, you certainly can go ahead and still participate in the activity. You'll just have to draw those. Okay. If you can take a moment right now for your Zoom to rename yourself. We'd love to see what grade level you're teaching. If it's 2 grade levels, please just enter the grade level that you want the most support with, and then your name. So we'll give you just a moment to do that, to rename yourself on Zoom. Awesome. I see 3rd grade. I have some 4th grade teachers, and a 5th grade. So I have at least 1 person from each grade level. Fantastic. And hopefully the other ones can go ahead and partner up, and we will be able to see that we have some more from each grade level. We'll be doing breakout rooms, and it'll be nice to have somebody in the room with you when we discuss these things. Fantastic. As always, we do have our norms with us. The norms are floating in on the screen, but if I could have somebody come off of mute and read one of those first norms for me, please. All right, as we move forward, we're going to do a little bit of a warm-up icebreaker. We're going to do a winter warm-up. As you can see on your screen, we do have some emojis. Those emojis represent the name of a winter song. So take a moment to look at the 5 different winter songs represented and try to come up with the titles of them. Number 1, we have somebody volunteering that number 1 is going to be Frosty and then the snowman. Yep. Number 1, Let It Snow is close, but see if you can get that to match something else. Number 5, that was a hard one last night with our other group. Walking in a Winter Wonderland. Fantastic. Number 5, Betty, good job. Thank you. That was fun. Let It Snow for number 4. Yes, there's 3 snowflakes, so it's Let It Snow, Let It Snow, and Let It Snow. Anybody have any idea on number 2? That's the only one. Jingle Bell Rock. Yep, Jingle Bell Rock. Wonderful. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. How does this pertain to math? Well, in mathematics, we do have a language that's written with symbols. And as a mathematician, we have to translate those symbols. And so with the emojis, we are practicing our translating skills of symbols into something else like words. So thanks. Our learning objective for grades 3 through 5. We're going to learn how to support our experiences for quarter 3. And how are we going to know if we get that done? How about Jasmine? Can you read for us, please, our learning experience? What's our success criteria for today?
I can describe how engagement, strategies, and the coherence of concrete learning experiences impact students' learning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we are going to take a look at all of those engagement and concrete experiences that the kids will be encountering throughout the course of our quarter 3. We do have a few things we need to cover as a district before we begin. And we have our core values. And our core values include things along the way of effective instruction, making sure that we have equitable access and outcomes for all, and that everything we do in the standard of excellence. Our target. According to our target, 90% of students will be what? 90% of students will be? What's that tell us?
On grade level based on absolute performance.
Fantastic. Whereas 60% of our students are going to, 60% will
meet performance level.
Yep, we have that in the chat. Fantastic. And last but not least, 30% of our students will be able to
master performance level.
Yeah, fantastic. 30% of our students will be at that master level. So how are we going to get there? Well, we're going to begin, first of all, with that sense of belonging to make sure that we do have that community and that family going on in our district and campuses. And then we're going to attend things like this for instructional delivery and design to help improve that aspect of our teaching practice. We do have a comprehensive curriculum strategy with our tiered resources. And as a district, when we talk about all means everybody. So when we say that all students will have that 90% or we will have 60%, we're talking about the bilingual, comprehensive, gifted, talented, and the special education. And how are we going to get them there? With Tier 1 curriculum. And for us, that Tier 1 is Great Minds. Just a recap of some of those Tier 1 resources. Has anybody ever used those tips for families that come with the Eureka program? Fantastic. We do have our 5th grade teacher, Kaylee, that's going to use that one. And how has that worked out for you so far? Have you had a positive result with that, or is it kind of something that's just a habit? If you don't mind. The parents are still learning, absolutely. And you know what? Not just the parents are learning, but we as educators are also learning with it too. I do want to let you know, though, that during that Tips for Families, there are lots of activities and games that it recommends parents can play with children. But you as a teacher looking for extra Eureka resources, you can also use those games too in your small groups. So make sure that you use that tip family sheet for just yourself too. We do have Succeed homework. While we did not purchase those consumables for each one of our scholars, it is still available online. So feel free to go online and print that out and share that with everybody. And then when you do a problem set, you're not going to cover all of those problems. There's barely enough time to get through a Eureka lesson as it is, much less a Eureka lesson and all the problems. So go ahead, and if you need extra resources for small groups, to use some of those problems you did not assign to the scholars during class. As we mentioned before, our Tier 1 resources are going to be Great Minds. For Tier 2 and 3, just a gentle reminder that we can use iReady for those students on MAP testing that performed at that Tier 2 and 3 level. So typically we don't have the entire classroom unless everybody performed on the lower end of it on their MAP testing. It's something that is not set up for every student in the district to have. It's just set up for those who were diagnosed with it according to MAP testing. Okay. As we keep moving forward, we do have some resources for you. And if you've attended our sessions before, you can certainly see that we have a resource page. And so we're going to put a link in the chat for you to that session resource page. If you want to go ahead and take a minute to open it up, you will be needing some of these links throughout the course of our next 45 minutes together. And so when that link is in the chat, go ahead and open it and save that tab for us, please. And it should allow me just a wee bit of time to play some music. While you get that open, and dedicate a tab to it, please. All right, hopefully everybody was able to access that resource page for us. Again, please make sure you keep it open in your tab. Story of units. Eureka Mathematics is a story of units, and those story of units are going to cover quite a few things for grades 3, 4, and 5 once we return from our winter break. Take a look at what will be covered in grade 3, module 5, grade 4 module 5, and grade 5 module 4. And if you have a moment, come off of Zoom for me and tell me, what commonalities do you see amongst those 3 grade levels? What are we going to be working at as campuses on grades 3, 4, and 5 when we return from our winter break? Yep, all capital letters in the chat, fractions. For sure, everybody from grades 3, 4, and 5 are going to be dealing with fractions. Anybody who's taught 3rd grade before in the past, what do you do with those fractions? Or take a look at the slide. What does it tell us we're going to be working with fractions and doing what with our fractions? What are 3rd graders expected to do with fractions? That vertical alignment. We're going to dive into that vertical alignment now. What are those 3rd graders doing with their fractions? And if you rename yourself with your grade level and then your name, we'll be able to tell what you are teaching. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. So in 3rd grade, we're going to be doing things like comparing equivalent fractions. I have these in the chat. Thank you, Jacqueline. Number line. And Ms. Brown, we're going to be doing comparing fractions too. Yep. And in 4th grade, what are we working on with fractions in 4th grade? Anything that's the same. 5th grade is showing representation. That is very true. We do a lot of representation of fractions. In 4th grade, any ideas what we do in 4th grade? We're going to be doing comparing, equivalency, adding and subtracting. And as we take a look at 5th grade, we're going to go even further than adding and subtracting. We're going to use that repeated addition to go ahead and apply it to multiplication. And we're working with some division along the ways too. So our scholars are certainly expected to have quite a grasp in regards to fractions. And fractions is something we have not always been as successful with as we could be. So let's take a look at some of our past performances that we've had and some of our data-driven instruction that needs to take place because of it. For grade 3, we do have 3 standards and fractions that were tested on STAR in 2023. And as you can see, that little middle standard, 3.3G, only had how much correct? How much of our district got that one correct for us? We have a very quiet group with us this afternoon. I feel like I need some more icebreakers for us to get moving here.
37%.
Yes, 37% of our scholars were only able to explain that 2 fractions are equivalent using a same point on a number
And
line.
supporting.
Or the same size as a whole. And that's a great point that it is supporting. However, as
And we
can
didn't pay much
see-
attention.
Yes,
to
because a
that.
lot of our campuses do like to do things and use terms such as high leverage standards. And those high leverage fall a little bit more on those readiness and not their supporting. And so one of the things that we are going to talk about today is how important those supporting standards are. Because you cannot get a readiness if you don't have that support that you need to understand it. But I do have to tell you, I don't want you to be afraid about 37%, my 3rd grade teachers. Because if you look at it as low-lying fruit, this is easy stuff to grab. 37% is definitely an easy number to improve upon. And so when we get our hands on materials and our manipulatives in those classrooms, I promise you we will definitely be able to do better than 37% this year, okay? So for grade 4, and I want everybody to take a look at it because we are talking about that vertical alignment today too and how important it is that they learn standards one stage to the next so they can be successful in the following grade level. So when we look at 4th grade, what was our lowest standard for 4th grade? Our lowest percentage for 4th grade? It's kind of frightful.
4.3E.
At
4.3.
4.3E.
Yep, absolutely. And that's at 30%. And if we read into it, it says that we are going to represent things and we're going to represent them how? Using what?
Object, pictorial.
Yes, objects
model,
and
object,
pictorial.
model.
So teaching things with representing and objects and pictorial is much, much different than teaching shortcuts or other things that can occur in a fraction classroom. So we really want to take our time today to look at how we are going to use objects and how we're going to use pictorial models to do that, okay? We notice one of our higher standards is compare to fractions. And so when they're actually asked to do the mathematics of fractions, they seem to do better with the mathematics than they do with representing. And again, that's going to come down to why. Why would they do better with the actual mathematics than they do with the representation? What do we sometimes see more often in classrooms?
Dealing with the numbers.
We go
Instead
straight
of
into
doing
the
the pictures.
numbers.
Instead of using the pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah, we do. We like to, as educators, go straight into those numbers because that's what that readiness standard is.
Yeah.
And we like to be able to dive straight into the math and the process of that standard algorithm. So we
Right.
do skip over some of those pictures and some of those hands-on experiences. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we do stick with the pictorial and the hands-on. For 5th grade, let's take a look. What's our lowest standard here in 5th grade? Our lowest one in 5th grade. Any 5th grade
5.3.
teachers?
5.3J.
Yep.
Yeah,
And what's the key with that one? What does it tell us we're doing?
it's the unit fraction with division.
It's the unit fraction with division. But are we
Uh-huh.
asked to solve it? What are we asked to do with those unit fractions and division? Our
It's
very
still-
first,
It's still the same thing, pictorial and kind of aerial models. It's that kind of same thing that was from 3rd and 4th.
absolutely, fantastic. And I see a lot of people in the chat are chiming in with represent. It's once again asking us to represent. That
Yeah.
word makes a difference, whether we are solving something or representing something.
Right.
And so when we are asked to represent as students, that's where we do find a lot of our scholars not performing as well as they could. And we're here today to learn that once they get that representation down, the mathematics behind the representation will make a lot more sense for it. And again, don't be disappointed. I think it's rather exciting that it's a 25 because we definitely, when we get those models and those concrete experiences in our classrooms, we can definitely do much better than that to 25. So this is a great year for everybody to be able to show that growth. Okay. What are concrete experiences and engagement strategies? Take a moment to read over that slide and what it means when students are engaged. So one of the very first things when we walk into a classroom and we're looking for student engagement, how should the classroom be set up for us?
Or groups, small groups.
In our groups. Fantastic. We always like to call it that traditional middle school, high school in rows, that old-fashioned. Our littles should not be set up in that old-fashioned way. They should be in those groups. Fantastic. There should be a lot of conversations and there should be a lot of physicalness that's going on. And when we say physical, we don't mean like PE physical. We mean those concrete and those hands-on materials. So let's take a look at what is that going to look like for us in mathematics for that next quarter. You were asked to do some pre-work. We had this up before the meeting, so if you've just joined, no worries. Please don't be stressed out. If you happen to have a if you happen to have a sheet of paper and a pair of scissors, if you can cut that paper into 6 equal strips. All right, what we're going to do moving forward is we're going to take a look at a 3rd grade lesson. Now, for those of you that teach 4th and 5th grade, you may be thinking, well, 3rd grade, that's not exactly what I work on. However, as we watch this lesson that we see in 3rd grade, I want you to consider those teacher moves. And we do have a participant slide deck. And in that participant slide deck, if we can put that link in the chat, there are a few slides in there for taking notes while you watch this video. So while you watch the video and use your paper strips to do what she's doing in the video, you're going to pretend to be the student or your piece of paper and pencil. As you're doing what she's doing, consider the teacher moves that she's making. She makes very intentional teacher moves. And I want you to hold your eyes out and look for those intentional moves that she's making. And why are those intentional moves important? And if you teach grade 4 and 5, how is something like this 3rd grade lesson going to help you and support your students in grades 4 and 5? Now, they may not see this lesson, but when you have those strugglers, knowing this vertical alignment, you will have other tools and skills that you can bring to your classroom to help fill in that gap. So this would be something to do great in small groups for your 4th and 5th graders that are struggling with their fractions.
Hey teammates, my name is Mrs. Murray. Today we will be partitioning wholes into equal parts and identifying the fractional units using fraction strips. Let's get started. Today you will need a crayon and 8 paper strips. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to grab your materials.
Now, she mentions 8. Today, for our process, we only do need 6 of them. They don't have to be those exact 8.5 by 11 pieces. Only for 3rd grade will you use these again in later lessons, and that's when the size and the fact that there's 8 of them does matter. But for today, as long as they are 6 and they are of equal lengths, that will go ahead and work. Once again, I want to remind you of your charge. Listen to what she says as a teacher, those intentional statements that she makes. How can those intentional statements help us in grade 3? And how can those intentional statements help us for 4th and 5th graders who might have some of these learning gaps in regards to fractions? So let's go ahead and continue.
We're going to start our lesson with 1 strip of paper. Pause the video while you grab your strip of paper. I want you to fold your paper like mine. Watch while I fold my paper. Go ahead and pause your video to do the same. Next, I'm going to draw a line where I folded my strip of paper. Go ahead and do the same. How many equal parts do I have?
2.
If you said 2, you're correct. 1, 2 equal parts. Do you remember what fraction of the whole 1 part is? Yes, 1/2. Next, I'm going to write the name of each equal part inside of my fraction strip. Watch me. Pause the video to do the same. So just to review, instead of using my strip of paper, I want to show you this picture of a fraction strip. How many equal parts are there in all? Yes, 2 equal parts. 1 equal part is called 1/2. Great job. We're going to go ahead and continue with our next fraction strip. Watch while I fold my fraction strip. Go ahead and pause the video to do the same. Now that we folded our paper, let's draw our 3 lines. Pause the video if you need some time. How many equal parts do I have in my whole? Yes, 4 equal parts. Do you remember what fraction of the whole 1 part is? Yes, 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and write the name of the fraction on each equal part. Watch me. Go ahead and pause the video to do the same. Okay, teammates, again, I want to show you a picture of this fraction strip on the screen. How many equal parts do we have in all? Yes, 4 equal parts. 1 equal part is called 1/4. Great job. Wow, so we made halves and fourths. Let's keep going. Go ahead and pause your video to grab another strip of paper. Watch me as I fold my strip of paper. Go ahead and pause your video to do the same. Now that I folded my paper, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line on each of the folds. How many equal parts do we see in all? Yes, 8 equal parts. We didn't make this unit fraction in our last lesson. When we have 8 equal parts, the unit fraction is called eighths. 1 part is called 1/8. I'm going to go ahead and write 1/8 in each part of my fraction strip. The word 8 is kind of long to fit in these small spaces, so bear with me. I'm going to try my best, and I hope you can too.
And there I'm going to pause the video too, okay? And I'm going to fast forward it just a little bit to the next section of it so that you can see what she continues to do after this. And so again, just continue to think about the intentionality that she has as this lesson is being displayed for the kids. And how will this help our 4th graders and our 5th graders, and just even our 3rd graders in regards to understanding our fractions. So as we move this forward, she does label everything with her eighths. She then jumps to the next side of her screen, and we can see her do the same process that she has done, but now she does it all the way to thirds, and then she breaks those thirds up into
What fraction of the whole 1 part is? 1/6. Great job. Now I'm going to go ahead and write 1/6 in each part of my fraction strip.
Okay, fantastic. So as we still have this up on the screen, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a moment. What are some of those things that you noticed she really intentionally did for our learners? Anybody from 3, 4, or 5? What did she intentionally do for our learners?
She modeled how to divide the strips, and she wrote like 1/4, and she divided it like she put one on top of the other so they can actually see. That's how a fraction is, with a numerator and a denominator.
Oh, fantastic. So the way that she used the number 1 and the word 4th, she put the number 1 on top and the 4th on the bottom so that they could see how it would be written as a fraction later with a 1/4. Yeah, that's fantastic. That definitely, I really think, was intentional. I do have in my chat that somebody had mentioned, she went ahead and showed equivalent fractions. So by keeping them lined up like that, it was equivalent fractions. What else did we notice that she used or that she did intentionally for our learners?
I think she's showing them
Label.
how many parts in the whole.
Yeah, she's showing those equal parts in the whole. Now you do have your 1 extra fraction strip. So something that we may upgrade even for this lesson is to show the length of 1 and to show that 1 is 1 whole. Okay, so yeah, that's a great thing to mention. Mr. Washington, thank you for that one. Anything else that we noticed that she did with it?
She used units instead of the number representation for a fraction.
Yeah,
She did use
label.
units. Absolutely. So she went ahead and she talked about fourths, and Eureka being a story of units. When I think about having to add fractions and having to add 1/4 to 1/4, I now can envision that word, that fourth, as a word. And it's just like adding 1 car and 1 car. I'm adding 1/4 and 1/4. So what would my answer be? So that's definitely going to help us too. And I do notice our first participant that offered up that she was writing it, and the way that she was folding her paper, they used the word division. Now, did we actually do any division in this little 3rd grade lesson? Did she talk about division?
No.
She did not. But is that something we have to later talk about with our 4th or 5th graders, specifically 5th graders, is that skill of dividing? Is that something we encounter grade 5?
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's something we definitely struggle with. So think about how that's going to help you moving forward with your division in regards to your fractions. So let's go back to our presentation. And as we take a look at moving forward, we are going to go ahead and break up into grade level groups. So what that means is I do need our third graders all together in a breakout room, and there may be more that fit into one breakout room, so we'll have several breakout rooms with us. Same thing in regards to our fourth graders and our fifth graders. And I know that Jackie has been working to get those breakout rooms for us. What is our charge when we get into those breakout rooms? Our charge is going to be to take a look at some of the lessons moving ahead and moving forward in our particular grade level that deal with fractions. And now that we have this wonderful tool, and it seems so simple the way she taught it with those fraction strips, but that simple tool is going to help everybody moving forward in regards to teaching fractions. So for our breakout rooms, as we get to the right slide, again, thank you for your patience. Our grade level breakout rooms, third grade, you're going to continue with module 5, but you're going to take a look at lesson 15. So the one that we've seen together as a whole group is lesson 2. We're going to jump all the way ahead 2 weeks to lesson 15. Fourth grade, I want you to take a look at module 5, and it's going to be lesson 3. Fifth grade, you're going to be looking at module 4, lesson 18. You do have that participation slide deck. And so as you go through those lessons in your breakout rooms, have conversations of what is that concrete and engagement opportunity. In her video, did she only use concrete? What other type of experience did she use with her learners? What did we see her do? Not just concrete with the physical blue paper strip. She had another type of experience for kiddos. If we were to toggle back to that one, we would see that during some of her questioning, she brought in a pictorial representation. So within one lesson, she was already transitioning them from the concrete material to a pictorial representation. So take a look at those types of opportunities within your lessons of concrete, engagement, pictorial. Make notes on your participant slides and see how you can connect whatever you're doing in grade 5, what the skills in grade 4 and 3 the kids are going to need to have. For grade 3, think about, how important this foundational grade is for everybody, and that vertical alignment that we've talked about in regards to our fractions, just from being able to identify them, to adding them, to multiplying and dividing them. So in order to find your materials, I do need you to go ahead to your resource page. Make sure that resource page is open. You have your participant slide deck. And the resource page, if you're here with me on the resource page, you can see it highlighted in the middle in yellow. And it will have your grade level, module and lesson, and the teacher edition version, which includes all of the student work samples, or all of the problem sets for students. And then the second link is a video. So if you are wanting in your small breakout rooms to kind of skim through and look at that video, please feel free to use this time as a study session to look through that video for that lesson. You should be able to share screens, but go ahead and dive into those problem sets for those lessons too. Any questions for what we are doing when we enter our breakout rooms? It looks like we may be good. So let's go ahead and give everybody, we'll say something like 8 to 10 minutes in those breakout rooms, Jackie, and open those up so that we can go ahead and begin to look at those materials. Welcome back. I know that was fast and furious, and I do like to give people a little bit more time when they are with their coworkers, just because it's so valuable. We don't always get to meet with other people from other campuses who teach the same grade as we do. But as we continue forward, I do hope you had some of those wonderful conversations in your Zoom rooms. And we're going to take a moment, if I can have a few people think about this and share their thoughts, but let's take a moment in silence to kind of think about vertical alignment, engagement strategies, and concrete learning experiences. And how is that going to help our students, especially in regards to this fractional component we have to encounter? Because fractions, as we know as adults, are not great, and fractions, as we know as children, are even worse. So how are we going to make everybody comfortable with these concepts? Any thoughts on that? How did the vertical alignment, how did the engagement strategies, and how did the concrete learning impact students? What do we think? Any thoughts on that one? Positive or negative? What were your thoughts in regards to that vertical alignment, engagement, and concrete strategies?
This is Miss Brown. I would say positive,
Okay.
because students know the expectations when presenting those strategies during the lesson. It's like prior knowledge. You know, we've seen strip diagrams before in 3rd grade, so now we're able to do it in 4th grade. We've seen those strip diagrams or number bonds in 4th grade. Now we're able to do it in 5th grade. So it's positive.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts on that in regards to that vertical alignment or that concrete experience that kids have? How is that going to impact our learners?
The vertical alignment also gives them a foundation. So, you know, when they come to your grade, let's say for me for 4th, I can better assess what they should have gotten in 3rd grade and then, you know, add on to that.
Perfect. You can definitely assess what they should have gotten. And you can also figure out where their gaps are. So they should have gotten this, but there is a gap. So now you have a skill in your back pocket to go ahead and to fill those gaps for everybody. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, I do want to thank everybody for being with us this evening with our quarterly content training for Q3. And the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. And so I really do want to give kudos to everybody who's joined us. You know, we could not do anything without you guys in that field with all of your time, your love, your dedication, and your work that you put forward. You are our heroes in our classroom. You are so greatly appreciated and admired for what you do.